Good afternoon, good evening, good morning, whatever time zone you are in. We are back, Brandon Society. It is Friday. It is 6-ish.
You good.
And we finally got Learjetta in the building.
I'm back, baby. I'm back. You know what I mean?
It's so good to have you back. But now
Oh,
we're
man.
doing one again.
Good to see you, sis. Word up, man.
It's so good to see you. We are down one member once again. Now it's Tiffy G.
Word up, Tiffy
She's
G.
doing some traveling, so next Friday.
Yeah.
But she's here in spirit with us. So, but today I'm excited about this topic because, especially with everything going, I say that almost every episode, but it's because there's so much going on.
Yes.
But with everything going on, whether it be in your personal life or even in your business life, which there's always something going on in either or both.
Right.
The question is, will you allow the stress, will you allow the pressure of life to turn you into dust or diamond?
Or diamond, B. We're gonna stay on diamond status.
Yes, I'm all for diamond status.
Yes.
I'm all
That's
for
right.
diamond status.
Because there's always gonna be something, you know what I mean? And I think we
Mhm.
talked about that in a few episodes where we talked about that. It's always gonna be something, and I think it always takes us to remember why you're doing this. Because if you don't have your mind made up on why you're doing this, you're gonna,
Yep.
or if you're doing it for the wrong reason, you're gonna crumble.
It is so true. It is so true.
Yes.
You know, they say that to produce a diamond, you have to apply pressure. You have to put it under pressure to really get that diamond to come through.
Right.
And I'm right with you. I want us to come through it all as diamonds. I
Right.
do not want us to be pulverized.
Right. Right.
So, the first question out the gate I want us to address is not so much, we're not just going to focus on like pressure, because we all know that, I mean, pressure never ends, honestly. There's always something in your life that's applying that press.
Right.
But what I want to first out the gate talk about is and explore is what's necessary to address and to handle this pressure. Because pressure goes hand in hand with infrastructure.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of the times what makes or breaks us is how our systems are built, what we have undergirding us,
Right.
whether it be personal or even business. It's those systems that you have in place or just infrastructure that you've put in place, because you know stuff will happen and the blank will hit the fan.
Mm-hmm. That's true. Word up.
So how do you adjust your brand, your business is infrastructure? Now how do you adjust it to your current pressures?
To be honest with you, that's a great question. I think for me, it's just more so. I would say just trying to stay focused on how I'm doing things, and if anything's going on and there's some necessary changes to make, I try to
Mm-hmm.
look at the problem and say, okay, this is obviously the change I'm gonna have to make. Or
Definitely.
sometimes it's not necessarily that you may have to make a change. Sometimes it's just
Mm-hmm.
like a waiting or
Yeah.
having to kind of just go through a process, and it may get rough, but it's going to pan out. Just may be some kinks in the way, you know. But
Mm-hmm.
for me in general, if there's any small um thing in a way, sometimes I'll seek counsel, I'll research, I'll say, okay, how can I get this done? Because again, when you're dealing with any industry,
Mm-hmm.
you have so many different things. It can be a business deal as far as contractual.
Yes.
It can be something as simple as you're used to dealing with a company and they're short on a service, or something happens and they can't provide a service.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, for example, when the pandemic was happening, I mean, we still in it, but when it was like
Yeah.
first fresh,
Mm-hmm.
a lot of the companies, because of social distancing, you couldn't get your record. You had to wait weeks and weeks and weeks
Oh,
and
that's
weeks, weeks
true.
or
That's
months.
very true.
So distribution was taking forever. So if you like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, I'm gonna drop my something in the next whatever, now you gotta wait like a month or so or more for distribution, or there's less workers, so nobody's getting back to your emails and
Mm-hmm.
this, and I mean, so it's a whole bunch of stuff.
So how would your infrastructure address that? How would
Um,
how would the systems that you have in place or the way in which you have gone about things address that, when that comes up, because a lot of companies had to adjust
Right.
because of supply issues, and their infrastructure had to either had to move in a certain way to adjust
Right.
to it.
I think it was a matter of just having other things in place. Like I was doing like podcasts with people.
Mhm.
I was a guest speaker on people's shows. I
Mhm.
was
Oh.
presenting my music. I stayed in the loop of just staying productive because when that happened,
Mhm.
to be honest with you, I have a record called Worldwide. It was the most frustrating thing, right? I still kind of just left it alone. I'm like, you know what, this is gonna be them records. I'm gonna just let people discover, and I know I should have
Mhm.
pushed it, but I put in for the distribution. I'm all excited. I'm like, okay, yeah. And then it just, oh, sorry, we have to wait. Our times are pushed back, and
Mhm.
we'll let you know to further notice. Please bear with us as we're going through this time. So I'm sitting here, I'm just like, hey, what's going on? Nobody's getting back to me. Nobody's getting, I'm like, oh my God, I
Yeah.
already put it out there that I'm going to start promoting it. This is happening. This is happening. Nothing. And then
Mhm.
one day I wake up and it's there. And
Yeah.
I'm just like, because I didn't promote
Awesome.
it. I didn't know
Mhm.
what was going on. I didn't have
Mhm.
no information. And I woke up and it was just there. And I'm like, ah. So it's kind of like a poor way of a rollout. And it was upsetting to me. But
Mhm.
also, I still stay productive. Other doors is opening, like me meeting people,
Mhm.
getting invited on shows. And in fact, you just have to stay productive because
Mhm. I
in
love
my
that.
industry, it's like, where can
Yeah.
I find your music? So I still had things
Mhm.
to present. I still had things going on, but you just have to sometimes go with the flow or just learn how to just make those small adjustments or roll with it. Because sometimes it's nothing you can do, but then sometimes it's
Very
the
true.
what can I do different or just I can stay productive. So it's
Well,
really just staying on your toes.
I love that because that's the whole point, I think, and that's what we want to bring to everyone is when stuff does happen and it causes pressure, you're not able to get the timelines, meet the timelines because it's out of your control.
Right,
Then you're able, I like the fact that with you decided to double down your efforts in another area that had to be going on regardless.
right,
So I like that. I love the fact because that's the thing. It doesn't mean that you stay idle because one engine has stopped. You
right,
got to put those other engines in gear.
right.
Um, for myself, you know, when how am I dealing with the pressures currently is I will continue to say it, which is systems. Your infrastructure is very important.
Yes, it is.
Like I announced last week, I took on a new project, and that has applied a lot of pressure,
Mhm.
because it caused way more time than I even thought it would take,
Mhm.
and it was hardcore, but I'm staying in it. But I had to adjust. So I took a step back.
Right,
I had something scheduled 2 days after I had done it, and I rescheduled that and pushed it further back
right,
because I had to gather myself and then make sure all of my engines were, in unity.
right,
I still have to have things ship out for my pre-existing,
right,
you know, way of promoting products that I sell. I still had to. I have a listing schedule. I still had to, adhere to that. And I think it's very important when the pressure is coming at you from any direction
right,
to take the time out to evaluate the systems you have in place and make sure that they are good if they are still viable.
right,
Don't just go into one area and focus all your energies that one way when you still have other things that you want to maintain because they
right.
should work together. So that's one of the things I do when pressure comes is to try to create balance
Yes. And
by
I like what you
yeah.
said too about taking a step back to take a step forward because that is so necessary to
Hmm.
take a step back
Yes.
in order to just kind of like look at everything, see the overview, and then adjust. Like how many times I had to do
Hmm.
that, like hold on, time out,
Yes.
or just take a step back. So that is much needed. I'm glad you said that.
Yes. Definitely. Yvette's shouting us out. She's at her hair salon getting her hair did,
What
but
up, Yvette?
she's still listening under the dryer.
Hey.
Yeah, I think it's very important. Another thing with pressure is I will share a little bit of my experience because I shared with everyone last week. I have started to sell, I've decided to sell on this new app called Whatnot, and it's live auctions. And I'm so thankful for a past experience because, you know, like we have said in other programs, if you really are about growing, you will see the nuggets and all of the struggles from before, all of the mishaps, all of the failed attempts. It will actually be money that you
Right.
now have to spend in a new area where you're like, okay, I learned that lesson.
Right.
Because when I went on, the first few minutes were very chaotic. I'm very new to it. It was my first show. There was a lot of just learning curve of how to get the buttons right, how to get the volume right, how to get the products up, how to, you know. And so I saw the count of people coming in, and I was like, oh no, they're gonna leave because I had to actually come all the way out of the room, start it all over again. But then I was like, you know what? It's fine
Right.
because this is the first show and it's just meant to be learning. It's
Right.
meant to be getting used to everything and really just going through the whole rhythm of it so that you can do better next time.
Right.
And eventually things worked out and I did get sales and a lot of people came in at one point. But the point is that that lesson came from someone who actually got me fired.
Right. Wow.
I was under so much pressure
Right.
back then. And my way of dealing with that pressure was to almost become reactive. And so it was coming at me here, so I was trying to address it over there. It's coming at me over here, I was trying to address it over there. And so I was never finishing anything. I was never taking the time to really digest things so that I can get better at it. I was just reactive. And
Right.
so I want to share with everyone that's one of the reasons we're doing today's show is to help you address a better way to deal with pressure because pressure is always going to come. And the more you want to build, the more pressure will be applied.
Right. And this is
But
what, like you said, taking those nuggets that you learn
mhm,
and knowing how to apply it to a
yes.
situation. Because it's like anything, like when you start jobs, it's kind of like when you're building your resume. Like you
Hmm.
start off as a cashier and then you work here, then you work here, then you go to customer service and then you wind up working at a bank. It's like
Hmm.
these experiences, you will know
Yeah.
from it's not the bank. It's like you'll know from the prior customer service, from the prior this. So you have an idea at the bank that how to do customer service now. So you take,
Yeah.
your areas that you're strong in and you apply them. I like that you said that
Yeah.
because a lot of times
Mhm.
you'll see people reading the books, you'll see people going through the classes, you'll see people getting the experience, but never applying it to
Yes.
sharpen up to become better. So it's like a lot of wisdom, 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 no application.
Hmm.
So I love that you pointed that out.
Oh yeah. And like what had happened was I was in a job where I was not really qualified.
Hmm.
And had a big responsibility and I was not used to the environment. And she told me, she saw me so frazzled and she was like, you have to learn to take control. She said, don't let things happen to you.
Hmm.
She said, take control. And in that same moment now, many years later, this is like almost like 8 years later, I've always kept that nugget. That was straight from God's mouth. I always kept that nugget. But she got me fired and she wanted me to get fired. She didn't like me. But I share this because sometimes you just have to take the L. That's it. No excuse. I took the L. I was not good at it, and she was right. I was just letting it affect me, and I
Right.
wasn't taking control. And so, in that moment, I took the L, and I took the L for years in terms of I just recognized whenever I am in a position where I'm feeling very overwhelmed, you can take a beat back and regain control of the situation. That's what I did, and I
Yeah.
share that with everyone because there was no other reason for it other than I didn't take control.
Right. Right. And that's another thing, like you said, we just have to learn how to again
Mhm.
use those experiences. And
Yes.
well, I mean, you can have a good experience, bad experience,
Hmm.
anywhere, but I'm talking about like taking the things that you learned that's going to help you towards building, because
Definitely.
you know taking the L, quote unquote, really kind of
Hmm.
sets you up for the dub, because now you taking that step back. Okay, cool.
Hmm.
Because you did that, look where you are now. You're further along. So it's
Yeah.
like in the short term, it probably looked like, oh goodness, you know what I mean? But in the long,
Hmm.
it was wisdom for you. So now you know you won't make those certain mistakes, or you know how to maneuver around them when they come around. Because some things prepare you for things that you know how to, like when you deal with your first angry customer, whatever,
Hmm.
You
Yeah.
know, eventually as you become more experienced, you know, when you see a certain customer with a certain disposition, you're like, okay, I'm handling the situation with a different approach. So I say that because different things cause for different measures. So you'll sometimes
Mhm.
you learn how to assess the situation, like
Yes.
you said, learning when, you know what, let me let this go. This is not good. Let me
Mhm.
handle it like this. You know what? Let me just take a step back from here. So we
Yes.
learn how to maneuver with experience. We'll learn how to maneuver. So that's great, absolutely, and that will help us towards future infrastructure when we're working on
Mhm.
businesses and how to handle our career.
Oh yes, definitely. Um, so now that we have moved into understanding that pressure, you
Right,
know, is never going to end. It's
right,
going to be always there. You
right,
know, can we I've learned that I can actually embrace pressure.
right,
I have learned to embrace pressure. So people may be like, well, how do you embrace pressure? Because pressure doesn't feel comfortable. Because even when they put that thing in the hospital, that pressure
right,
to that does not feel very comfortable.
right,
But I think it's good to embrace certain pressures because pressures will push you to do and be your best, I think, under the right circumstances. Um, right now, I like I said, I took on something new. And at first I was like, Kim, what is wrong with you? Why are you doing this? But it's funny how life will provide you the space to get done what you have been putting out that you want to get done.
right,
I have been saying to you, Learjetta, as well as to Tiffy G, and all of my other friends as well, that I need to get all my stuff on my social media. I need to get all my stuff on my social media. That's the thing that's lacking. That's the thing that's lacking. And so now I'm on a social media site, a new one, doing something totally out the box, and that's bringing awareness to my website that I'm building.
right,
It's work to take on the pressure. I'm
right,
embracing it because at the end of the day, this is an answer to what I know I needed. I
right,
needed to embrace social media and
right.
get away, have a vehicle to get out the word.
Mhm.
I'm building a website for e-commerce. I'm building,
Right,
and so that's one way I've embraced the pressure is the fact that I'm not going to shrink on um, more duty that
right,
is going to suck more time. I'm just learning how to incorporate it.
right.
So, how have you? What pressure have you embraced?
Uh, um, I would say learning how to. I'm a very to myself person. Okay, I can't.
Hmm.
I'm a very to myself person. I can be very social, but a lot of
Yeah.
times I like, my space and different things like that. And I've learned that if you're really going to get out there and create relationships, and it's not just
Hmm.
as far as being to yourself, this is just a lesson period. You have to learn how to embrace change, because
Yes, this is true.
that is something that can really help you to move outside the box. And I really had to embrace that right there. Like, okay, I moved from the city out, New York,
Hmm.
and this whole journey for me has been constantly
Hmm.
stepping outside the arena
Yeah.
into different places. But
Hmm.
I'm learning now from doing it that it has also been so rewarding.
Yeah.
Again, you go through those moments where you're like, the pressure is like, man, this is crazy sometimes. You're like, I
Hmm.
can deal with this. But because I hung in there and, did certain stuff, and, you meet new people, I've been so blessed. And I shared that with y'all a couple times, like,
Hmm.
having a different network, meeting people who's doing a lot of stuff, people who can help direct you to the next step, and you also
Yeah.
bring value to them at the same time. So I think the constant journey of stepping out into the unknown has been such a deal for me, because sometimes we talk about that, like, oh, stepping out.
Hmm.
And it's little stepping out, like, okay, I'm gonna step out and do my social media page. I'm gonna step out,
Hmm.
create and do a website, and then there's I got to step out and travel and go
Yeah.
here and do this and do this event, and it's like now you got to do a whole bunch of different stuff, or now you meeting people who's like, you shouldn't do it like that. You have to be open to new ideas sometimes,
Hmm.
feedback, and so many ways of stepping out into the unknown, um, and just like stepping outside your comfort zone. Like, it sounds so
That's
cliche because a lot
important.
of times you'll hear people like, oh, step outside your comfort zone. But you'll know
Hmm.
when it's really time and you
Yeah.
really got to step outside your comfort zone, you gonna know.
Well, yeah, and I love that. That for
So that
you
was my.
embracing
Mhm.
pressure is to embrace stepping outside of what you feel comfortable in.
Right.
Because it is there is pressure to after a while. I think, and I agree with you. You will know because you'll feel that now the only problem is you. Like
Right.
the only reason you're not going forward is you. It's not anything else. Is that you just are making excuses for this? Is like I said with me with social media. This was a great opportunity, and if I didn't do it, it was just me now wanting to give into what I'm comfortable with, which is being
Right.
behind the scenes.
Right.
And so I agree with you that that's what a great way to
Right.
embrace pressure.
Right. And one thing I
Out
will say
of
too
your
is
comfort zone.
sometimes unless it's for that pressure, some let's be for real. Sometimes we won't step outside the
Mm-hmm.
comfort zone if the pressure is not there. Sometimes that pressure make you get on your job and do things you didn't know you can do, or start hustling the way you didn't know you can hustle, and
Mm-hmm.
start. I mean, you'll push yourself because sometimes if it's not for that, like even some people who like you look at some people who are maybe not on a good team or they want to step up and
Yeah.
athletics or whatever, they'll start training more. They'll start doing this more. People will start doing more research, read more books. Let
Mm-hmm.
it be. Sometimes if it's not for the pressure, we can just be like so content and not grow and get kind of stale. So
Oh
sometimes
yeah.
the pressure is
Very
like
true.
something that catapult us to new places. You know what I mean? It's like
Oh, that's
fuel.
very true.
Yeah.
That's very true. And that's
Yeah.
the thing. No one don't want to be stagnant. You do not
Um.
want to be stagnant. And so
Right.
I love that you said that is sometimes it's good because that brings us into something else I would like us to look at and share with everyone, which is what specifically in your industry uh, is a pressure or pressures that are good, that will make your business, your brand stronger.
Um. That's a good question. For me, is okay.
Mhm.
We know a lot of times when I talk about what I do, uh, ministry, music, and a lot of times
Mhm.
when people hear ministry and music, they thinking you're going to be like really super deep, some
Yeah,
kind of whatever, trying
yeah.
to take the thing to, and it's like for me, it's also a chance to show that
Mhm.
this uniqueness is different and it's not what you think
Mhm.
it is. Is a chance to present it in a different light. Because I
Yeah.
think sometimes when people are like, okay, Leadjet motivated, Christian artists, men,
Mhm.
Christian motivated man, and people see you and be like, oh, they kind of feel like they got you summed up. But then a
Yeah.
lot of times when I
Mhm.
speak to people, it's like, oh, well, I didn't know that. Like I'm supposed to look like Buki in a suit or something like that, I guess. But it blows people's minds. So I feel like
Yeah.
it also, for me, I feel like it's an advantage to show people, no, it's not what you
Okay.
think it is, or it's a way for me to. I feel like also it makes me to grow because it helps me. Like, okay, now there's a chance for me to really put it into perspective. So
Mhm.
the way I had to make certain changes in my career, from just being an artist to now standing on my faith, that's a challenge in itself.
Oh,
Uh,
yes, definitely.
Having to readjust. There was you know me for a long time. There was a
Mhm.
lot of certain music I used to do that I just have to leave in the grave now,
Yeah.
uh, because I have to
Mhm.
live by what I truly live by. But that has itself been a pressure because I've met many
Yeah.
people. When I start talking, they already felt like they had me summed up. So
Yeah.
even in itself it can be that pressure between, am I doing this because I'm more concerned about the money aspect,
Mhm.
or am I trying to stay true to what I'm doing while building? And that can
Mhm.
be pressure in itself. So I have to keep my mind grounded in knowing why I'm doing what I'm doing and staying true to that. So that's in itself.
Well, yeah. I mean, you definitely. There are lots of, especially in the music, there are lots of pressures in the music industry.
Right.
The music industry is filled with pressures.
Hmm.
Um, for me in fashion and just I guess like the business arena of reselling and like selling online, uh, I love the fact that, and I think I'm trying to capitalize on that, the pressure to be a part of the next wave.
Mm.
Like it's now become once they started talking things about like now the big box stores are trying to create their own websites on reselling. The stigma has greatly reduced. I mean, it's very trendy. It's just okay. Like now, like people buying pre-owned, pre-loved, like we had great trailblazers in the industry, like the Real Real, and Tradesy, which are, million-dollar companies, multi-million-dollar companies.
Mhm.
And so, there is a pressure, at least I felt it, to not stay in the pack. And I think that's good because, everything moves forward with innovation. And so I want to be on the tip that is being part of the ones going to innovate and bring something new or be a part
Right.
of the next level of
Right.
things. Again, that's like whatnot. Everyone who's on it, they say it. And, I even had the experience before I ever started selling on it was you could just it's like an amazing thing. You go on it, and I just felt, oh yeah, this is the next thing. This is the next tier to resell. This goes above eBay, above Amazon, even because it's just a whole new way of merging things that people now are very used to, which is buying things online and buying things that are pre-owned and watching TikToks, watching YouTube, following people in a social media way. So it's like it's the perfect mergence, and they're the first ones to really merge it so well, and
Right.
that's bringing forth a whole new level. And so that's the pressure that I felt. I also feel the pressure of just I need to get my website out. I need to get it out. I need to get it launched. I need to get it launched, and that's a good pressure.
Right.
Like you had said earlier, there, Jetta, the worst thing is for someone to give into stagnation.
Right.
To give into the next year. No,
Right.
this year.
Right.
It's already was supposed to launch in the upcoming month of August, and that will have to be pushed back. It's not because it's not where it needs to be. And again, I want my structures to be able to be balanced so
Right.
that it can succeed and it won't turn to dust.
Right. Like the industry is ever changing. I like to look
Mhm,
at that too because, like me, I'm the type of person. Speaking of, even in that arena, if I didn't expound on that, even
mhm,
like I don't follow the trend. Like I'm not.
mhm.
I hear the way the music sound now, and I'm
Yeah.
not going to make music because it. Like no, I'm like, dude, I stick to. I believe in artistry, and
Mhm,
I feel like with this change, it can be good, it can be bad because everything is quick. Like people want quick streams, people want to go viral real quick.
mhm.
So sometimes that could mean less effort. It could be more
Yes.
things just kind of go viral and the quality don't be there. So it's like also that's another thing. I try to stick to quality. I'm like, you know what?
Mhm.
I want quality, regardless of the fact. I would rather have quality than just hurry up and try to go viral real
Oh,
quick. Because remember, trends are always changing. So,
mhm.
today's trend, tomorrow is like it's over with. You know what I mean? It's the next thing. It's always thing. Like it went from CDs and stuff, and now people like streams and
Yes.
people want quick. People want like it went from even when you think about eBay, like you said, Trazy and Amazon. Now people like quick live auctions, blah blah. Like it's always
Mhm.
changing. It went from now people doing posts to now people just want reels and people just want TikToks and people. So it's always constantly changing. So this is where no matter the industry you in, you have to know again going towards niche, like knowing
Mhm.
what you stand for, what you bring to the table and staying true to that because you know and prime examples is like when you look at certain people like if you mention a Kendrick Lamar, if you mention a J. Cole,
Mhm.
if you mention even some of the older musicians who have transcended, is because
Yeah.
they didn't focus on trend, they brought quality, and the
Yes.
quality is what made people like I like that. It's the quality, it's not really following a trend. And I've seen a whole bunch of trendy people who had a hot something for 2 seconds and it's gone, you can't even find them no more. You know what I mean?
Well, that brings us into something I really want to get a little into, and we bring also be. I want to include those who are watching to join in this conversation. And thank you, Yvette, for the comment. Yes, I am finally in my purpose. We both are.
Right.
Which is something interesting that's happened this last week, which is talking about pressure. So, how do we deal with now? We're not really there yet because we're still climbing. We're
Right.
still climbing. But we could take a peek. How would we deal with the pressure, like you just said, where you are not following the trends, but you're actually a trailblazer.
Right.
But what happens when you're a trailblazer and now you behind the pack because things transition? So I'll give you what's going on right now, an example, and let's get into this. The Kardashians are actually quite upset, and they wrote a post about 2 or 3 days ago. But they're not the only ones upset. They're not the only ones, because Facebook and Instagram started changing how their platforms look. They were doing a beta test. It wasn't for everyone to see, but it was a beta test because they wanted to start pushing out people's content and pages similarly to TikTok. And so instead of your followers just automatically, like, on Instagram and on Facebook, whoever's following you, when they open up the app, they're always going to see the people who they're following. They're going to see whatever's the newest post from everyone.
Mm-hmm.
But TikTok is just whatever's trending. You have to keep in that trend. So they were going to trend. So they were playing around with the idea, and they were testing it out of changing the algorithm for Instagram, where what you see on your feed is literally just what happens to be trending and what also goes along with the things you look at.
Right.
Obviously, those who are huge influencers, that's a problem. Because what's trending tomorrow or yesterday may not exactly be what you put out.
Right.
You may be a hot, like a influencer, but that doesn't mean every day you're trending. You rely on the consistency that whatever you put up, you're going to have your 10,000, your 100,000, whatever many followers you have seeing your content. So they were upset about it because they were like, let Instagram stay Instagram. Don't let it turn to TikTok. And other people follow suit because this is, I think, what's happening. And this is pressure. Because the pressure is when you do get to a certain level, nothing lasts forever. So how do you, honestly, bringing up music as a great example, how do we stay as the Beyoncés? How do we stay as the Madonnas? How do we stay as, Kendrick Lamar, Jay-Z, in terms of that they have been in the game for decades and still remain relevant?
Right. And I think you just answered it in the same time. I think remaining relevant, remaining true to the craft, because when you look at these people you name, they stay true to the craft. And I think sometimes people get too caught up, and because when you think about music, when you even go back to Commodores and all the way up to Usher, I mean, it happens. They die down, the next generation come in. So that's what's happening now. You went from artists like, used to come buy an album and go to the CD store and get your album signed, to now streams, where now people not be doing album signings too much and all the stuff that they used to do, because now it streams now. You know what I mean? So the times are always changing. So when you look at somebody like Tina Turner, and then you go like Beyonce is like the new Tina Turner now. And so now her time is coming. But here's the thing. Just because the times change, it never stopped Tina Turner from being Tina Turner. I think people get too caught up in always staying in that spot when they first came out in that limelight. It's like your legacy is your legacy, but you got to stick to your craft. The problem is when, and this happened in a lot of generations, like the older generation start getting mad at the younger generation.
Yeah.
And when you look at that, and I've noticed that pattern. So it's like, okay, you got somebody like Little Kim or somebody like that, and now when Nicki Minaj come out, it's like, I'm the original. It's like, it's like you gotta learn to let that go, because those people are looking up to you and respecting you because they learned from you. So now, sometimes you go from, you always in somewhat supposed to be a student, but sometimes students have to learn how to just now become the teacher. And now teach the generation to keep going, because now what's going to happen is, now you see Nicki Minaj had her run, and then it goes. I don't agree with her stuff, but I'm saying Nicki Minaj run, and then now here goes Cardi B, and then here goes. So everybody is always happening. You had your Jay-Z's, and then Here you go, J. Cole and Kendrick Lamar,
Mhm.
like, but it never stopped. Jay-Z still Jay-Z, Kanye still Kanye,
Mhm.
J. Cole still J. Cole. It just
Yeah.
now you have to learn how to sometimes become the OG and start teaching people. If you're in fashion, you got to learn how to now be the fashion OG. Hey, listen, this is what you want to do. If you want to set trends, this is what you
Mhm.
do. So, and then also older generation people learn how to take note as well from the younger people because they can keep you relevant as well.
Yeah.
They can keep you with the latest trends and knowing how to keep in
Mhm.
the loop. So you got to know how to play your position sometimes because sometimes you rocking with the young people, you learn how to stay in the loop. They know
Well,
what's hot, they know what people want, and you can adjust that. You don't have to bend, but you can adjust it and make like you look at Jay-Z, he know how to be cool in every generation.
yes. Well, that's I totally agree. I totally agree with everything you said. I
Right.
do think that there's two outcomes. I do think there's the outcome where, Barbara Streisand still can sell out city was it Carnegie Hall.
Right.
She could at any moment she could sell that out just
Right.
because she has such a loyal fan base.
You see?
And, they're still alive. So
Right.
um, she's a legend. Um, but in terms of her relevance, she's not as relevant as, someone else, in that same genre.
Right.
The- So I do believe that there you can choose one of two paths when you
Right.
really build something.
Right.
But the pressure to stay relevant, I think either you should choose the path to succumb to the fact that you're the OG and just you enjoy the fact that you've been there, you've done that,
Right.
you got the T-shirt, you still have your loyal following, and
And you
you
can still be dope. Like it don't take
feel
away, it
dope.
don't take away nothing you
Yeah.
did, take away nothing from you what you did. I think you said it's about learning how to readjust and play your position. Because
Hmm.
now when you look at these people who he just named, they're a staple in the culture.
Yeah.
Like so their legacy is here. So really what happens is these young people try to learn from you. So
Definitely.
you can take them under the wing, and then you can also learn a little something from them. Like okay, cool. Because now here it is where times are changing and
Hmm.
are going viral, and you don't need a record label behind you no more. You don't.
Definitely.
You can start a clothing line from your basement. You don't
Yes.
need to be.
Yes.
You don't have to go to school to open businesses no more. You don't.
Hmm.
You don't have to have 1,000 producers because the kids now is just getting on their phone and making whole music videos and reels and they going viral and they got careers now. So
Yes.
it's really like the game is changing. As if somebody back in the days, you had to go to this person's office, you had to do this, you had to stand outside, pass out 3
Hmm.
CDs, and move to California. Now you click a button and the whole world can see you. So
Well,
it's
yeah,
different.
that is that's where we have to choose. How will we adapt, or how will we respond to the pressure of change, the pressure
Right.
of the innovation, because you can remain the OG. And that's why I want us to delve into what's going on now with Instagram and in the whole them trying to take on the look more of TikTok, because
Right.
TikTok is the kid. Like that's what's really going on. And people are saying that Instagram should take the stance that they're the OG. They've been
Right.
around for a minute. They surpassed Facebook. They're not considered the old one, but they're considered like maybe you're the 30-year-old. You're not old, but you ain't young.
Got experience. That's it. Right.
And you ride that out.
Right.
The other alternative is also to stay actually relevant, which is also what you implied, which is Jay-Z is cool in every era. Like
Right.
Beyonce, I bring up her because regardless of how you feel about her, she has done something that very few people can do. She just released her new album.
Right.
And I remember Beyonce when I was in high school.
Right.
There are kids who are half my age who like her. That is a feat few are able to do.
Right. And
And
then look at the balance though, because when we talk about these things, when you look at somebody like Kendrick, he has
mhm,
the Dr. Dre's and the Snoops and those
mhm,
people like that behind him.
yeah,
J. Cole got his opportunity from the Jay-Z. So that's why this is the part why I say the hand in hands come
mhm,
in, where it's like Kendrick didn't do that by himself. He had the OGs stamp him. So
yeah,
they played a part in his legacy. Like, so what I'm saying
mhm,
is there's a balance there. So that's why I say when people, when people see him like, oh, who this Kendrick dude think he is. So these examples I'm giving is no matter what industry we in, like if you're a fashion person and you get a chance to sit in a room and talk to Ralph Lauren, you know you're gonna get a whole bunch of juice from him on how to do whatever, right?
Yeah.
And then maybe you can share a couple things with him because now he may be trying to be like, you know what, I want to do something fresh. And now you can be the young kid that's like, yo, if you do this, this would be dope. And
Definitely.
he now can have a whole different new line. So it's just a hand in hand thing. You gotta know how to, like you said, that all has to do with a young person and an older person both transcending. You know what I'm saying? It's hand in hand.
I think possibly one of the keys to being able to stay relevant, the long course, is actually staying diversified. I think that is the key. I think that what has helped, companies as well as artists and just, anyone who's providing something over decades, because that's staying power. I think it's the fact that you're diversified, because I believe if you're diversified, that keeps a certain freshness.
Right.
In terms of even actors, just being able to show that you're and really push for you being in more than one type of kind of film, in action. A great example of that is, Liam Neeson. He blew everyone away. He was a serious actor in terms of he was in romance movies as well as he was for a long time just in he's a well-known actor, but he was just in these movies that are more drama based. Homeboy, I don't know who got it for him, but Homeboy in his later years was like, I'm gonna do Taken.
And he killed that.
Turned into an action star.
Right.
Because diversification will help you to transition. Same actor, it's just in a different view. So it's like, I think that that's what helps for you to have staying power is when you're diversified. You're not just maybe a musician. You also get known as an acting, or if you're not just an acting, you also get known for philanthropy. You have to get known for more than one thing because diversification is what keeps you the staying power. Because most people who fade, most companies that fade, is because they actually are very pigeonholed into one thing.
Right. I was going to bring that up. I was going to say about like even the course of this pandemic, because some of these companies didn't have online businesses and different things like that. They lost a lot of revenue because they had like no online presence, no different money systems put into place, cash and carry only business. They messed themselves up. And also, if we're going to apply that, we can also apply that to everyday people. You ever see that old person that's like, look, I'm not using no ATM card. I'm just gonna write a check, or I'm not doing this. I remember back in my day, we just did this. It's like, bro, and they just so stuck in their ways. You like, like super Stone Age. But that's because people, they don't want to go with the times. It's like because it's uncomfortable now. It's just like, no, I still want to go just down to the bank and deposit my check. But it's like, well, listen, if you just take the cell phone and click it, you don't have to go down to the bank. You can just click it in your mobile app and your check is right there. Oh no, I just want to go sign this. I don't have a debit card. So it's like, that's in every industry. We just have to constantly learn how to go with change. That goes in so many different areas. Times change. If you go back earlier on with us in the world, like there was different times where different things was going on. So we're always advancing, things are getting quicker. The microwave generation where like this, and that's what music, that's what fashion, that's what everything. People wanted like this. That's what internet service people wanted. Like, yo, listen, remember you used to watch the internet and the gigs slow down, and it's like, everybody want everything.
It's a new world. It's a new world. But I think what you said is for everybody, regardless if you have a business or not. I do think that for you to rise to the occasion of being able to allow pressure not to break you, you do have to incorporate the ability to adjust to changes, the ability to, like you said, be able to work with what's new, whether it be a person or an application, and also be able to, yes, stay true to you, stay true to what you know. You could do both, but you can't stay a one trick pony,
Right.
because that's what really makes you turn to dust. You can't stay a one trick pony.
Right. Yo,
Even in a
even
marriage, even
the kids
as
even
a
had to
coworker.
the kids even had to adjust to online school. You know,
Yes,
like yo, everybody went straight virtual. It was like,
yes.
so I mean, like,
Churches.
it's just change is always happening. Like they went from school to no more friends, social
Hmm.
distance, online school. So it's just like change is something where we always constantly having to. It
Yeah.
comes nowhere. So I brought that up because I'm saying like it's important to learn how to, stay current. So
Hmm.
we go in the aspect of staying relevant. It's like we have to learn now. Now the kids got another skill. So now if they shut down school tomorrow, the kids know what it is to go virtual now.
This is very true.
So now
This
they got the
is
experience of virtual teaching. So
true.
if there's something happening like another shutdown, the kids gonna be like, I'm gonna have to give them the laptop. They know now.
Yep.
So this like staying using experience, staying relevant, being able to make those changes when those pressure comes, being able to know how to use it to your advantage. Because you can use the pressure to your advantage, or
Yeah,
you can say, you know what, I'm not doing nothing no more. I'm done with this.
you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right.
Right.
I want to open it up. Does anyone have any comment they like to make or anything they like to share? Anything? We're always open, because this is a conversation.
All right.
It's us, but we want to have it with our audience as well.
Right.
I love talking about this topic because, we are living in a time where, unfortunately, it's said so many times now in the news, there's so many horrendous things happening because people are dealing with mental health issues. And obviously they're succumbing to the pressures that have
Right.
been applied since 2020. Like from 2020 even to now. I mean, I know I've heard on the news, New York City, the numbers of COVID are rising, the hospitalizations are rising. We all are going through, they don't want to say it's inflation. They're trying to say it's not inflation, but we already know what it is to go to the supermarket. So
Right.
regardless of what you want to call it, I didn't pay for milk this price last month or even last year.
Right.
So you call it whatever you want to call it. Because they're really worrying about semantics right now. And everyone, the average person who's affected, they're like, it doesn't matter. Bread doesn't cost the same. Like all of the grocery bill is not the same. The gas bill is not the same. The condo bill, the electricity bill is not the same. So
Right.
call it whatever you want to call it. You don't want to call it inflation? I don't know, but it's something new, but it's bad.
Right. Right.
It's bad. But I bring that up because there's so many pressures, and we want to be a light to people in business and with building a brand. But like we always say, you are your brand. When you go out your door,
Yes.
you are giving the world a representation of who you say you are, you want to be, and
Right.
let that be the best you. I know you want to ask something later, Jim.
No, I was just saying you're right. I agree with what you were saying. Like when you go outside, you are your brand. We stress that all
Mm-hmm.
the time. Like if you go outside and you nasty to everybody, when people see you,
Yeah.
oh, that person nasty, don't leave them alone. Like you are what you constantly put out there. People looking.
Mm-hmm.
You see that person who always got the latest kicks. They look nice. You be like, oh, that person. Oh, they stay fresh. I mean,
That's
you
true.
are. When you leave, when you're talking to people, you are a billboard.
Mm-hmm. And it's amazing. I agree with what you said, because it's amazing how people evaluate you without ever even speaking to you, but just even seeing you regularly. Like when I use public transportation, so there are certain people who are used to seeing me, whether they be patrons or actually the bus driver or the train driver, and they're like, after a while, oh, like you said, they notice whatever, and they're starting to make you evaluate, and we all do it. We
Mm-hmm.
all do it.
Mm-hmm.
That's a God-given gift, just for the fact that helps us in some ways to be safer.
Yeah.
Like if you see someone talking to themselves, that's a clue.
Right.
Maybe keep your wits about you right now.
Right.
We're not saying nothing bad about the person, but that's just a clue as a human. That's
Right.
a sense. Oh, I noticed that. That's not regular.
Right. Well, most people walking to the side, they see that.
Exactly. So it happens even for the good. Someone sees that you're always presenting yourself in some way, that you always happen to say, oh, thank you. People notice that. And so you are your brand. And, with the pressures of life, we want to encourage you to like Learjet has said, adjust, make adjustments. Also take the step back when you need to take the step back, readjust. So you adjust and you can readjust. We talked about balance. It goes the gamut because pressure will happen. And if you truly are trying to build something, particularly, yes, with a business or brand, you got to get used to certain levels of pressure because it doesn't stop people.
Right.
More money, more problems.
And
more
pressure,
opportunity, more problems.
Gonna run up on you somehow, some way. So that's just like you have to learn how to handle situations. Like sister said, readjust. I mean, that's a part of life. That's a skill in life where you have to learn how to sometimes be in those situations, endurance, all these things come through. You know what I mean?
Definitely. Well, if there are no more questions or comments, we will see you next Friday at 6. And I'm believing it'll be all three of us finally.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to play that song. Reunited. I'm gonna have to play that. I have to figure it out. All right, guys. Well, until next Friday, we hope you have a great weekend. Do something fun.
Enjoy.
Later.